And good morning for our last meeting. And Representative Thompson, would you please introduce your guest today? Well, the first item of business, we're going to change it just a little bit. We had a change, dots and commas, and I'll have Carly explain it, is 2230. And she had some changes. She said that there's no need to vote on it. It's just an informative thing of a few corrections on House Bill 2230.
Committee, if you go to the very back in attachment A on subsection E, when going through the proving process, we realized that this was very old appropriations language. So all we did is updated it for 2023. It's purely technical and it's exactly what you voted on, just in current language.
Okay, are there any questions? Yes, Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 4, the balloon that, let me get to it. The balloon, the first balloon where it says assign the number of, where does that join up with the rest of the verbiage?
So it's line 8, correct, on the bill. So it would be the adjutant general may assign the number of assistant adjutants general.
So he has a latitude of how many then?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Any other questions? And I understand from a reviser, there's no need for a vote. Just an informative information. Thank you. Now moving on to House Bill 2392, we need to vote on amendments. Thank you. You gave me an eye there. We need to vote on amendments for this. Are there any discussions on the amendments that we heard last Thursday? Any discussion? Do I hear a motion? Representative Goddard?
I move acceptance of the amendment for 2230.
Do I hear a second? Second by Representative Weigel. I know. About Alzheimer's, you meet someone new every day. Back here. That's for another time. All in favor of the amendments, say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes do have it. The motion, the amendments pass. Now back on the bill. Do I hear a motion? Any discussion on the bill? Any discussion at all? Do I hear a motion to pass the bill? I'll speak at once. Representative Dodson.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we pass out favorably as amended House Bill 2230. We on 92 or 30? 92.
Thank goodness I didn't goof up this time.
Got both of them in front of me here, so 2392.
Do I hear a second? Representative Miller. Thank you. It's been motion and second. Do I hear, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion has passed. The bill has passed 2392. My. Now, we've done our business today. That's great. Now we have a briefing from the Department of Revenue on veterans and military license plates by Leanne Phelps.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you this morning. I do have a little slideshow, thank you, Trevor, to present this morning. The focus this morning is on what the Division of Vehicles offers for veterans and military as far as license plates. So we'll just start with the next slide, has some contact information. If you ever need help with constituents or their issues, please contact us. We're happy to help. It kind of breaks out who's in each area. So if you have a driver's issue, Kent Selk, or a driving record issue, Lacey Black, but there's our contacts in case you need to get a hold of any of us. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, distinctive military license plates is what we're going to talk about. We have a long history in Kansas of honoring and supporting our military and veterans through license plate programs. From what I could find, it looks like since about 1953, we've been offering the disabled veteran plate. So that seems to be about our oldest, what I would call a distinctive license plate. I thought about when I was going to come and present, what would I want you all to know? And the only thing I could really come up with is we get really tripped up over qualifications and eligibility on the military and veterans. So if a plate were to come through your bill, or if one of you wants to present a plate, helping us out with what the eligibility criteria would be wonderful. We had some plates that passed several years ago that were very narrow in their scope, and it was very difficult to come up with who was eligible and who was not. And it creates quite a bit of controversy. You'd be surprised. People get very attached to their license plates. Who knew? Especially like if it's honoring a specific campaign. We need that help to understand how we would know who's eligible and who's not. Thank you. Next slide. We currently have 24 plates that are in honor of military and veterans. And I'm just going to run through those. And if you guys have questions, let me know. Next slide. These are the new plates that we added. They became available in January of 2023. It's the Bronze Star plate and the Silver Star metal plate. These are issued to any service member who was awarded those respective medals, and a spouse or other family member may keep the plate upon death of the service member but cannot display it on the vehicle. So currently we've issued 14 Bronze Star, 2 Silver Star for a motorcycle, and 1 Silver Star plate for an auto. So not bad numbers considering they just started being issued in January. The next few slides are just images of all the plates that we offer that are in the veteran and military arena. I'll just kind of quickly go over them, but you have your handout that will give you some details about what the requirements are for each plate and whether a motorcycle plate is available on each of these or not. A few years ago, we started with all the branches of the military. So those are haven't been on the road too long. So we have the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Army. These are in alphabetical order, which so we'll come across some of the other branches, but those are the first 2 branches that are in the list. We've already talked about the Bronze Star. We have the Congressional Medal of Honor. I think it's sweet. There's only 3 of those out there right now, so not a whole lot of that going on, but obviously something that needs to be recognized. U.S. Coast Guard is the next one, which would be in those branch of service. This is disabled veteran, disabled citizen is what we're calling the last plate on that first page there that has the wheelchair emblem and says disabled veteran at the bottom. Last year, a bill went through that made some changes to the disabled veteran plate. And so I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to the next one. But this is the one that typically you've seen on the road for many years now. And I think on that one, it has to be a veteran who is 50% disabled, determined 50% disabled by the VA. Okay, our next one is Desert Storm. So that's one of those that's a very specific campaign, and there was a lot of dispute over whether you had to have like Desert Storm on your DD-214 or a specific metal. That's the kind of thing where it's helpful for us to know what criteria, what you guys are looking for, what you're asking for. Okay, disabled veteran, not a disabled citizen. So this was the change that occurred in the bill last year, where if you were a disabled veteran but not meeting the criteria of a disabled citizen, because they're two different definitions, the plates were kind of broken out. So you can get one with the wheelchair emblem if you meet the statutory criteria as a disabled citizen, or you can get a disabled veteran plate without the wheelchair emblem if you don't meet that disabled citizen criteria. That was a bit of a challenge in the beginning as we started to roll that out. It was confusing for a lot of people. What we're doing with that one is veterans, disabled veterans. We started last July, and through June of this year, they're kind of going through a recertification process. They don't have to recertify that they're a disabled veteran because we already have that. We know that you've already gotten the disabled veteran plate. But if you meet the criteria as a disabled citizen, then we need that form filled out. I think it's a TR 159. Needs to be filled out and turned in, stating, that your doctor declares that you would meet the criteria as a disabled citizen. So that if as a disabled vet, when you go to renew your plate, they're asking for one or the other. If you bring nothing in and you're okay to get the disabled veteran plate without the wheelchair emblem, we'll print that and send it to you. Otherwise, we need you to verify or give us the form indicating that you meet the criteria as a disabled citizen. So that's been the confusion. It's been something we've had to work through. Okay. So next we have Enduring Freedom, like Desert Storm, and later on you'll see Afghanistan. That's another one of those that it's been difficult for the division to try to figure out, because to me it's the statutes are pretty broad, and if you served in Enduring Freedom, you would think that that's what would make you eligible. I wasn't in this position at the time these plates came out, but I was being told that no, you had to have some very specific metal. Well, that's not in the statute. That's not how I'm reading it. So help me out here. So yeah. Okay. Next, ex-prisoner of war. 15 of those plates on the road. Pretty interesting. Families of the Fallen. It's a plate that's eligible to family members, those who have died in service. 233 of those. 233. So let me point out, on your presentation there, the column that says active, that's how many plates we have on the road currently. They pulled these numbers just a couple weeks ago, so they're fairly current. Next, we have the Gold Star Mother. Obviously for mothers, stepmothers, foster mothers that can, make that connection through documentation that they would be eligible for that plate. Let's see, the Iraqi Freedom plate, Korean War plate, Korean War veteran, the U.S. Marine Corps, National Guard. That's another one of the plates that's been on the road a long time. I mean, at least 15 or 20 years. That plate's been around. So 622 of those. U.S. Navy, one of those branch of service ones. Purple Heart plate, we have 2,320. So that's kind of interesting to note that there's quite a few of those out there. The Silver Star Medal, which is one that we talked about, we just started in January. The numbers aren't there, but the numbers are in the previous page where we discussed them. The U.S., just the plain old garden variety U.S. veteran plate. We have 72,000, almost 72,500 of those out there. So that's a very popular one. And it's been around for a lot of years. So that's, I'm sure, adds to the numbers. The Vietnam veteran, that one has not been in place for too long either, but still 7,000 of those on the road. And that's just a quick run through of the plates. And you'll note that the requirements for us to tell who's eligible for those plates are listed there. So I didn't want to go through all that. It's a lot of detail, but generally what we're looking for is a DD-214. That's the main document we ask for. Not that we won't accept other documents, but that is just a very common one that we know contains the information generally that we're looking for. And then the last slide is just some of the priorities for our area that deals with the plates. We are working to eliminate the duplicate plate combinations. Those show up on a lot of these plates that we're discussing today. We've got a plan in place that we hope we can put in production in January of 2024, where we would discontinue duplicating those plate combinations. So every plate would be unique plate number. We need to complete a personalized plate reservation file. That's for those plates that you can order your own combination, personalize them. There's a bill pending to make any specialty plate or any distinctive plate able to be personalized. We have to have a way to track that, and that's what this reservation file would do. We're going to continue to build on our electronic services and expand training for both our staff and our county partners, and then enhance experience for online services. So with that, I would stand for any questions.
Before we have questions, will you introduce your guests?
Yes. I have Director David Harper with me. He's the Director of the Division of Vehicles and the Director of the Property Valuation Division.
Representative Thompson, did you have a question? Representative Collins?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment. You said the National Guard's plate's been around 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I got out in 91 and I had one on my car then. Yeah. So it's been since 91. Yeah. I'm not doing the math in my head here real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Representative Poskin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here, Leanne. You mentioned there's, some concerns about how to exactly do plates. And so my question is to you, is that something that we can help you with? Is it the legislation that needs to be cleaned up, or is it the rules and regulations of the division that create some confusion?
Thank you. That's a good question. I certainly think if it's something that can be put in the legislation, that always helps us. We don't generally do rules and regs about the plates because they're fairly straightforward typically. But if we have questions and any of you could help, that's always a benefit too. We do tend to kind of pick on the Adjutant General's office if we're confused, and they've helped us out over the years as well.
Well, I would say this would be a great time to maybe start with this committee. Turnaround is Friday, so not for this year, but that would give you 11 months to kind of see what we might be able to help you with.
Just curious, who designs the plates?
The military plates, because they're what we would consider a state issued plate, we don't have a sponsor for them. There's nobody's, getting a royalty fee or anything off of them. Is generally our staff.
One more question. I was just wondering on the disabled veteran, disabled citizen,
Mm-hmm.
and it's got the distinctive, the wheelchair on there. Would there be any, because it looks so much like the other one, I wonder if they could change a bit just to make it look more military-ish, I guess.
Certainly consider that. If you've got ideas, we'd love to hear
Okay,
what you'd like to see.
thank you.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of along that same line on this disabled veteran, disabled citizen plate. I needed a little bit of clarification there. You mentioned that the qualification for getting that, was it either 50% disabled or a doctor's certificate, or is it both?
Excuse me, it is both. So to get the wheelchair emblem, you have to show us eligibility that you're a disabled citizen. And there's criteria set in statute for that I can't remember all of them, but it's things like you can't walk unassisted for more than further than like 100 feet, or you need oxygen, or there's a whole list of criteria there. To get the one with the wheelchair, you have to be both. You have to show us disabled veteran status and disabled citizen status.
And that is new this year, is that correct? Previously, they didn't have to do that.
Yeah, it started in July of last year, July of 22.
Is that a one-time deal then? Or, I mean, once they've established that criteria, they don't have to go back every year or whatever?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. We're just having them kind of tell us this year through June of this year, we should hit all the renewals because we started last July. And, through that staggered registration process, 1 year's worth should hit every person to renew their plate, doing that recertification one time, and then they're set. They're good to go.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at 7:30 on the first day that Leavenworth County License Department opened, Major Rob Oliver was standing in line, and myself and Representative Neely were able to be there and get the first 2 Bronze Star plates, and it really meant so much to a veteran. And so I thank everybody on this committee that was with us last year, but also that you care enough to make these things happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any? Representative Johnson.
We probably get more email on the disabled plate than any other item. One of the things we're trying to do over time here is reconcile some of the military language so that it sticks in Kansas statute. The 50% doesn't necessarily mean anything regarding military disabilities, because you can be severely handicapped on your legs without having 50% disability. The TR 159, I think that you reference, is something that you have to send in or bring with you in order to get the wheelchair on the left side of the plate. So I think what we're going to do, one of the things I'm going to offer here is that these disabilities that are granted by DOD be translatable into Kansas statute so that we don't have to go through this every time. We had many veterans send me a note and just say, I've had this license plate for a long time. This has basically to do with parking. So it's not, you get a disabled vet across the bottom of your plate, but in order to get parking, you have to have the wheelchair. So I just want to make sure that these things go together. In other words, the TR 159 tells the department that you can't walk a certain distance or without aid or something. And those same things exist really in your DOD discharge, your medical discharge. So we're going to try to reconcile that.
Thank you very much.
This is our last meeting before turnaround. Please take the material from your folders home that you wish to keep. And do I hear a motion for adjournment? Representative Thompson, second. Representative Dodson. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes seem to have it. The ayes do have it. The meeting is adjourned.